day after I met Jimmy, actually, my first session with Jimmy, that's another story. And that's a story. And so in the hallway, I guess it was like the next day, I went and I said, "Who's that?" It's Arif Mardin. "Oh, okay." I didn't really know who he was at the time. You know, I was a young kid. I was 20 years old. And then I started listening to record. "I know that record. Oh, he did that? I know that record. He did it? Okay." So I started working at the studio, and basically I got into a session with Arif. And I got another session with Arif, another session. It just kept going all the time. And the studio manager called me in and said, "All right, I know you work for the studio here, but you're basically working on Arif sessions. And if there's any time, we can do other things too." I said, "Okay." And so that's how it started. And that was 30 years. Almost 30 years ago. So, and it was like, you know, it was like coming home to a family and being part of it. And, you know, you're in the circle and you just keep going. And he was a whirlwind of a guy. You know, everybody was drawn to him. I mean, we're all sitting here tonight, basically, because he had that kind of power to actually bring everybody into the fold. Anybody that he met. And I think it's, you know, that's really his legacy. Doug?
I met Arif, I think, in 2005. I was filming a session with Queen Latifah, and I was in the studio, but we never spoke. And I was a bit intimidated, really. Not that it wasn't really wonderful, but I just stayed out of the way. And then about 6 months later, Joe asked me if I would start filming he and his dad making this record. And I said, sure. And within a day or two in the studio, he just started becoming my friend in a way that, you know, I'll never forget. He would, you know, in between breaks, he would read the Times editorials, and we would talk politics. He loved to talk politics, and so did I. And then he would read the New York Post, page 6, and we would talk about gossip.
That's in the DVD extras.
So really,
also about a half a dozen Turkish papers were always in the session as well.
Absolutely. Anyway, within 2 or 3 days of being in the studio with Joe and his dad, you know, he treated me like a family member, and you know, gave me a hell of a ride for the next 6 months, and then all the incredible folks that I got to meet making this film with Joe. And mostly, I just want to thank Joe for making me part of this.
Thank you, Doug.
It was really a wonderful accident, and changed my life.
It wasn't an accident. You made a wonderful film that I saw.
Hello.
Hello, Senator.
Senator. I met Arif this is really even easier than film. I met Arif in '69. I was a kid of 16 years old. I was working I got a job at Atlantic Records, and it was the first time I'd seen records made, and of course there was Tommy that was there, and I worked at night because I went to school in the day. So Arif would kind of be there, but I didn't know who did what, where, when. It was just this stuff. Everybody was doing stuff. And they were cutting Dusty in Memphis, that album, which was incredible. And then one night, the horns came in, and Arif was doing the horns. And I thought, oh, maybe that's what he does. But we never really talked, but you know, I had this job, it was going on. So it came summertime, and then I'd be there in the day, and I realized in the daytime, he was there all the time doing stuff. Like he was a major part of this machine. And then I started to see him more. I mean, we were there every day just doing stuff, but then I saw him more with this group called the Young Rascals. And they called him, it was like a